Good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to a very important edition of Breaking News for this Wednesday. It is the 29th day of January, 2025, and we are literally at the crossroads now with respect to the war in Gaza. Phase one of the ceasefire hostage release is continuing with another six hostages to be released by Saturday. The discussions about phase two, which would end up with a complete Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, are supposed to start. Two stories this morning are going to say everything about it, so we need to look at it. First of all, Trump-Netanyahu are going to meet next Tuesday in the U.S. as Witkoff heads to Israel. Witkoff is Trump's man. He's arriving in Israel today, next Tuesday. Trump will talk with Netanyahu in Israel about what's going on. And number two, a second story, Netanyahu has no choice but to move forward with the deal. This comes from Hamas. All right. So here's a question. What's going to happen when phase one is over? Netanyahu insists the fighting will not stop, while Trump indicates phase two must go forward. He actually said that last night on Air Force One. So basically, the future of the U.S. and its relationship with Israel is at stake. Will the U.S. insist Israel go through with the deal? If so, does this mean Hamas will survive and live to fight another day from Gaza? Will Israel continue the fight without the blessing of the United States? The stakes could not be higher. So let's just look at these two headlines. Headline one, Trump Netanyahu to meet Tuesday as Witkoff heads to Israel. This is from the Jerusalem Post. Witkoff, U.S. President Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, is scheduled to arrive in Israel on Wednesday. Of course, that's today. Prime Minister's office confirmed yesterday, Tuesday, that U.S. President Donald Trump had invited Benjamin Netanyahu for a meeting at the White House on February 4th. The announcement followed Trump's statement on Monday that he planned to speak to Netanyahu, who would be traveling to Washington to meet with him. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, Trump said the meeting would take place very soon. Ahead of the meeting, Steve Witkoff, Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, has begun discussions on phase two of the Israel-Hamas hostage deal, sources told the Jerusalem Post last evening. Witkoff, who is expected to arrive in Israel today, Wednesday, will discuss with Netanyahu the next phase of the deal, which will include the release of the remaining 64 hostages from Hamas captivity, some of whom are confirmed to be dead. The talks are officially supposed to start, were supposed to start on Monday, day 16 of the ceasefire, according to the original signed deal. However, Qatar and the U.S. have already started discussions on the issue. On Tuesday, the Prime Minister of Qatar and the Foreign Minister spoke with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. In a statement published by the Qatari Foreign Office, the two expressed hope that the hostage deal would reach its second phase and become permanent. And that means permanent ceasefire, that means the war is over. Now, here's the deal. Netanyahu has stated that Israel would oppose any deal that would officially end the war in Gaza or that would deny Israel the ability to return and fight, leaving Hamas in power. Another issue that will probably be raised in the Wednesday meeting between Witkoff and Netanyahu is Trump's recent statements regarding a proposal to move Gazans to Egypt and Jordan. The president said he had discussed the issue with Egyptian President al-Sisi and said, "We have helped them a lot, and I'm sure he'll help us. He's a friend of mine. I think he would do it, and Jordan would do it too." Now, a senior Egyptian official denied reports of a phone call between Trump and al-Sisi Tuesday. That was yesterday. Three sources told the Jerusalem Post that Egypt and Jordan conveyed a message to people close to Trump that if he presses on with the plan, it might hurt normalization efforts. The sources added that they feared the move might impact the stability of the two countries. Egypt and Jordan have already publicly, as we've talked about, opposed the deal, but the new warning by other Arab countries is likely to influence the chance of it gaining any traction. I'd like, this is Trump saying, I'd like to give them living in the area, get them to live in the area so they can live without disruption and revolution and violence, he said of the Palestinians in Gaza. Trump's comments came after he floated the idea over the weekend that Egypt and Jordan, which border Israel and the West Bank to the south and east, respectively, should take in Palestinians from Gaza because almost everything is demolished and people are dying there. The new U.S. president said he made the request in a phone call with Jordan's King Abdullah on Saturday. All right. Obviously, so much is riding on this visit of Witkoff to Israel and then the meeting in 6 days with the two leaders. We will have an idea of what's going on as Witkoff is supposed to arrive in Israel today. Therefore, we should soon have indications of exactly Trump has in mind. The fact that Trump mentioned getting to the second phase of the deal is problematic for Netanyahu, who wants Israel to continue to fight after phase one is over. In other words, he doesn't want any second phase. The second phase, as we've talked about before, for all intents and purposes, would bring about an official end to the fighting. So, to sum up, it's a very crucial time for Israel, the United States, and the problems in the Middle East. Now, let's add this headline to the issue. Headline number two, from also the Jerusalem Post: Netanyahu has no choice but to move forward the deal. That's what Hamas says. The concept of the day after the war and the removal of Hamas from the equation no longer exists, and the future of Gaza is purely a Palestinian matter. This is from Hamas. Mediators have begun testing both sides' readiness to begin talks regarding the second phase of the deal. Hamas spokesperson Sami Abu Zuri announced that the terrorist group on Telegram announced this on Monday night. He said the mediators have already started the process of gauging both sides on whether they are ready to begin the second phase of the agreement, and Netanyahu has no choice but to move forward with this agreement to the end. Abu Ziri said Netanyahu accused him of empty talk about returning to fighting, saying it was merely for local consumption. All right, so here's where it's at, real simply. Seemingly Netanyahu is in a no-win situation here. If phase two begins to be implemented, okay, in any form, then the present government of Israel will dissolve. Who or what will take its place is anyone's guess, because Netanyahu has been saying over and over again, after phase one will begin the fighting. But right now, his people, they are talking about implementing phase two, which again, eventually means not only all the hostages come back, but also the total withdrawal of Israel from Gaza, meaning Gaza will be very much, besides being 70% destroyed, a similar situation with Hamas still in charge. Now, the uproar of the Israeli public would likely be deafening, like we talked about yesterday, that very important story. Everybody's all euphoric now. They're great. Oh, these hostages are home. These poor girls are there 400 and some odd days. Thank God for it, and rejoicing. The parents, there with them hugging, and everybody's happy for that. We're going to have 6 more released, 2 females and 4 males this weekend. And then we'll see how many more are still alive. But it's euphoria for all the families, of course, that have the hostages there. However, if that's it, and if the people who were murdered on October 7th does not result in the end of Hamas, because there's no end of that, in other words, they got away with it. All the soldiers who died entering Gaza, who have died for nothing, add to this, who were maimed for life from the fighting, if again nothing has settled from that, uh, what's going to be the response? And like this article said yesterday, like we've been saying, the people will say, wait a minute now, we've been had, we kept hearing that we're going to get a victory uh, in Gaza, et cetera, and there is no victory whatsoever, it seems. Now that's if this one thing happens. However, if Netanyahu insists on continuing to fight, then not all the hostages will be returned. Apart from the 33 in the first phase to be released, some 60 are still being held. Now, how many of the 60 are still alive? No one knows. Likely most of them are dead, sadly. We just don't know. What's he going to do about them? Because if he continues to fight, there seems to be no hope for any hostage released in the future, because the deal, he will be the one who have broken the deal, in other words, because Hamas is, and it's, to Hamas's benefit. Yeah, okay, we'll go through the deal. Let's, we'll give you the rest of the hostages. We'll slowly but surely let them out for you. And then at the end of the day, you guys leave and we'll rebuild Gaza. We'll get our Arab brothers to pony up the money, and everything will be fine. In other words, nothing will really have changed. So basically, the next few days should give us an idea as to where all this is going. So needless to say, humanly speaking, there is no good solution for Israel. So pray that God's will be done. But if they're seriously talking about, we'll find out what Witkoff, Trump's envoy, tells Netanyahu, you got to go forward with the negotiations. Well, again, according to the initial plan, the 3 phase number 2, and is an end of the war in the sense, not just a ceasefire, but just a total end of the war, cessation of hostilities, not just it's a permanent ceasefire. In other words, not just something for a short period of time, contrary to what Netanyahu is saying. So what's going to happen? We don't know, but it's going to be very, very touchy, difficult situation. And like we said, Israel is seemingly in a no-win situation here. No matter what they do, there's going to be an uproar because they did not finish the job. And it looks like now, because like we said yesterday, with the corridor opening from all the 650,000 to a million Gazans going from the south to the north, it looks like there's no possible way of them continuing on with the war in any way, shape, or form. All right, we'll keep you informed with all this. I'm Don Stewart. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, at the end of the day, the good news is the Lord Jesus Christ will return. There is a future for Israel, although rough as it's going to be. And we document that in all our books on our website, Educating Our World, under the heading of Bible prophecy. And everything, of course, always is free there. So please take advantage of it. I'm Don Stewart again. Thanks for watching. Until next time, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.